It is my great pleasure and honour to provide this welcome and introduction on behalf of the Asia 21 class of 2018 to our very distinguished guest today. It is my honour to introduce a leader who tirelessly champions inclusive economic growth and the importance of collaboration amongst different stakeholders to provide assistance to impoverished families in the Philippines. So let us all give a warm round of applause to the Honourable Vice President Maria Leonor Herona Robredo.
Thank you very much. Kindly take your seats. Ms. Doris Magsaysay-ho, CEO and President of Asia Society in the Philippines. Mr. Tom Nagorsky, Executive Vice President of Asia Society in New York. Ms. Suyin Liu Lee, Executive Director. Mr. Timothy Watts, Member for Gellibrand Parliament of Australia. The class of 2018 of the Asia 21 Young Leaders Program, the alumni of the Asia 21 Young Leaders Program, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everyone. Before I begin my speech, a quick thanks to Tom for the brief history of Asia Society. I have a brief understanding of what it is. I was telling Doris and some others earlier that I had the privilege of accompanying my husband in 2 Asia Society occasions in the past. I think it was in 2006 or 2007 that he spoke at the Asia Society in New York. And there was another event in Fukuoka in Japan that I also accompanied him. But it was a fun way to listen to the brief history of how Rockefeller figured in funding the Ramon Magsaysay Awards. My husband was one of the awardees in 2000, and I never really knew until this afternoon how Rockefeller became involved in the Ramon Magsaysay Awards. So that was the story. Medical student Serge Aklan had a dream. He wanted to teach less fortunate kids how to play the violin. So Serge came up with a project with his friends called Project Gifted. He formed a youth organization and recruited young people to help and inspire others to develop their own talents. When we made a call for youth organizations to pitch their projects for our Angat Buhay Youth Summit, he took the chance. At the summit, Serge proposed the creation of the Lipa City Youth Orchestra, not just to make beautiful music, but more importantly to help children with drug and mental health problems through music therapy. Project Gifted was awarded as the best out of 50 proposals. After that, we brought Serge to a youth congress in Hanyang University in Seoul, South Korea, to make another pitch, this time competing against other projects from all over Asia. And he won a special award. Because of his group's successful pitch, the group received additional funding for its project for the Lipa youth. 1 year after the group won, the Lipa City Youth Orchestra has completed 1 recital already. And they can play, we were told, different intricate variations of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. A feat in itself, despite the seemingly simple nature of the piece. Its adorable young members are now practicing more songs so that they can play in selected communities this December. A beautiful way of healing them from their mental problems, mental health and drug problems. In the mountains of Zamboanga del Norte, south of the Philippines, lies a town called Siayan. From 2003 to 2009, Siayan was found to have the most severe type and magnitude of poverty at a staggering 97.5%. The people of Siayan were very poor. They could hardly eat 3 meals a day. But one young mayor changed the course of Siayan's future. Her name is Mayor Flora Villarosa. Mayor Flora already had a flourishing business here in Manila. But when she saw the suffering of her people, she went back home and ran for mayor. Hoping to improve the lives of her constituents, she opened spaces for dialogues among the different sectors. Quickly, roads were built, bridges were constructed, and people were no longer jobless. Now, Siayan is a far, far cry from what it was before. Last February, we visited Siayan because we heard that one of Mayor Flora's remaining goals is to reduce the dropout rates in her town. Siayan's children had to walk 6 to 8 kilometers each way every day to go to school. So our Angat Buhay partner, the Yellow Boat of Hope Foundation, built a dormitory, and we now call it the Yellow Dorm of Hope. It was so touching to see 25 of the poorest students from the farthest barangays now living in the dorm, and they are excited to finally finish their studies. In the same way, students from the municipalities of Balangkayan and Salcedo, in the province of Eastern Samar, also southeast of Manila, have to walk at least 10 kilometers each way every day to get to their classes. By the time they reach the campus, students are very much exhausted, affecting their academic performance, which often leads to frequent absences. To address the high dropout rate, we decided to replicate Siayan's successful model and build student dormitories inside the school campuses in these two communities. Throughout time, we have seen the power and the unique ability of young leaders to move the world in ways others could not. The youth finds ways to do things better, faster, and with more heart, creating a new brand of leadership and redefining the world in countless ways. In these turbulent times, leaders like you are exactly what we need to create a better world for generations to come. For the last 20 years, Asia Society Philippines has been a strong force in global education and nation building. Guided by its mission to promote mutual understanding and collaboration among future leaders of this world, it has transformed itself into a seedbed of hope in a fast-changing, globalizing world. Our world today has great need for organizations like yours, because in many parts of the globe, chaos, hate, anger, and divisiveness have taken over. The internet mirrors this, perhaps in a more virulent way. Immigration policies that discriminate against color and accent, the proliferation of fake news on social media, the rise of authoritarian figures, and the dwindling number of democracies, the growing hordes of refugees in warring states, and the brutal killing of innocent lives due to the war on drugs. These are just a few examples, but the pain they have brought to mankind are massive. Indeed, the world that we face is a much more complex one compared to centuries ago. We see and experience much darkness, but at the same time are blessed with cures for what was once had been fatal diseases. We are witnessing the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, the sharing economy, and the possibility of interplanetary travel. As a result, political and economic landscapes are shifting before our very eyes. At the cusp of technological developments and new scientific discoveries, we have reason to be both terrified and discouraged. But let us not forget that used well, they can give us hope that our countries can inch closer to progress and development for the masses. While we have to watch with a keener eye the many challenges that democracy faces, have confidence that the human family will never give up on democracy itself. We see this appreciation of freedom all over the mountains and valleys and cities around Asia. We also see it in the triumph of the Filipino spirit that sparked our people power revolution more than 30 years ago. Proof, I believe that we all fully understand that the change we aspire for does not lie in the hands of one person alone. It thrives in the defiant hope of every Asian, in the desire for transformative change, in the generosity and camaraderie of ordinary people who perform simple, extraordinary acts of everyday courage. That is why today's gathering comes at an opportune time. If we want to reinvent leadership in the 21st century, we have to ask ourselves, what are the core values we hold on to during the most tumultuous of times? What kind of leadership is needed to redefine the world? Effective leadership is never about one man's ability to yield power. At its very core, genuine governance is about sharing that power so that others may prosper. Before I entered the world of politics, I was a human rights lawyer for a legal resource non-government organization called Saligan. For more than a decade, I witnessed firsthand how the law could be used to empower the marginalized by teaching them to defend themselves and stand on their own 2 feet. We would visit the farthest and the poorest of communities, the farmers, the fisherfolk, the laborers, the urban poor, indigenous peoples, women and children, to provide free legal assistance. We would offer paralegal trainings and translate laws into the local dialect, with a belief that with this knowledge, they will be in a better position to fight for their rights. Real empowerment happens when those we help can also empower others. This is the same philosophy that inspires the work that we do at the Office of the Vice President. Perhaps not many of you know this, but our office has one of the smallest budgets in the bureaucracy. When we discovered that our office does not have the mandate nor the resource to create and implement programs, we decided that we could not sit idly by and spend the next 6 years merely doing ceremonial functions. So when we assumed office more than 2 years ago, I told my staff that we needed to find innovative ways of doing more with what little resources we have. This is why in October of 2016, we launched an anti-poverty program called Angat Buhay, which in English translates to Uplifting Lives, where we positioned ourselves as a bridge between communities needing help and organizations wanting to help. Through collaboration and partnerships, we responded to the most urgent of needs of the poor and marginalized in ways that can be sustainable and scalable, rather than cosmetic, one-time, big-time assistance. One of the places we went to was Agutaya, and it blew our minds because of its location among our country's beautiful islands. You have to take an 8-hour boat ride from the municipality of Coron in Palawan, going to the town of Cuyo. And then from Cuyo, take another 5-hour boat ride to reach one of Agutaya's barangays, Barangay Algeciras. When I first stepped foot on the island in 2016, the locals greeted me with tears. I was later told that due to its very remote location, only a handful of national government officials have visited the place. There was no electricity, no access to potable water, no hospitals, and many children were stunted. Locals struggled to make both ends meet by harvesting and selling seaweeds. In places like Agutaya, where poverty, hunger, and hopelessness are daily realities, acts of kindness are magnified 1,000 times. When our Angat Buhay partner, the Metro Bank Foundation, donated funds to construct water pumps in 4 public schools, and buy hygiene kits and vitamins for kindergarten to grade 3 pupils to prevent further stunting. The atmosphere was like a fiesta. When another Angat Buhay partner, St. Teresa's College of Quezon City Alumni Association, turned over boats for the fishermen, they felt they won the mega lotto. Having been unable to sail their own boats since Typhoon Haiyan years ago destroyed their own. Imagine what it was like when the solar panels donated by our partners ASA Philippines in Barangay Diit and Team Energy in Barangay Maracanao and Barangay Matarawis allowed 400 families to experience the joy of switching on their own light bulbs at night for the first time. And you know what they immediately did? The women organized weaving sessions so they can produce more hats and bags. Those of us who live in the city do not appreciate this. But without electricity, these women had to stop working at sunset. Now they weave even at night, and buri hats have become a major source of income for many families in these barangays. We strove to provide a holistic approach, so our Angat Buhay partner, the Andres Soriano Foundation, provided health caravans, livelihood training, and water testing, so that a level 2 water system could be put up as soon as possible. Our partners, Children's Hour and Canvas PH, also donated books and school kits for the children. Everybody in the family got something, and while the totality of the help we brought did not amount to billions of pesos, the entire community's hope that shone in their eyes was worth more than that. Agutaya is just one of the 176 communities that we serve through Angat Buhay. While these programs may appear modest in scale, we have seen how communities have been transformed, one sector, one family, one individual at a time. You may have seen in the news lately how Filipino farmers and the agriculture sector have not been getting enough help. And that is why it is a sector of our economy that has been left behind. You see, for decades, many of our farmers have been at the mercy of abusive middlemen. We have heard stories of farmers who would wake up as early as 3 o'clock in the morning, only to earn too little from their toil and sweat. Hoping to empower and increase the income of smallholder farmers and create more livelihood opportunities in the poorest communities, we also launched Angat Kabuhayan last October of 2017. To help local farmers in the province of Camarines Sur, for example, we entered into a partnership with hotels, restaurants, and hospitals. Our partners agreed to buy their supply of calamansi, ginger, lettuce, chili pepper, and other vegetables from the local producers on a regular basis, instead of sourcing them outside of the region like they used to. The creation of a whole new value chain that empowers the farmers was met with much excitement, both from the private sector as well as from our beloved farmers. With this setup, they were able to command high prices for their produce as they did away with middlemen. Moreover, they now have a steady market for their produce, and we hope to replicate this model in our other Angat Buhay communities, including Kiangan in Ifugao in northern Luzon and Lambunao, Iloilo in the Visayas, to name a few. All these efforts will be more sustainable when local government leaders are supportive and have the skills to sustain the pace of change in society. So we put up a bridging leadership program for local government officials of our adopted communities in partnership with Sea Oil Foundation. Now, local chief executives can gain a deeper understanding of critical issues affecting their community and be equipped with skills and knowledge that would enable them to work with different stakeholders to develop tailor-fit solutions to address local problems. Angat Buhay is our brave response during these turbulent times. It is our way of saying that creative and transformative leadership is one that is rooted in emphatic and active participation. And we hope that in the future we can partner with you in creating more positive change in the lives of those who need us the most. So to our young, emerging leaders in Asia, remember this. It is during the most turbulent of times when real character and commitment are tested. It is when you have to make difficult decisions for others that you will learn the most. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will lend their voice to the weak and the powerless. Brave, creative leaders who will choose service over popularity, empathy over personal gain. Leaders who will abandon their personal agenda and inspire others to follow their footsteps. Yes, there will always be frustrations. There will always be challenges, rejection, and bad days. Not everything will go along as planned. But we should not allow these things to distract us from the work that we need to do. During these extraordinary times, let us take on the challenge of creating a society that is more open to collaboration, a society that is free, where every man and woman, regardless of their gender, religion, ethnicity, and educational background, can dream of making a mark on the world. But the fulfillment of these dreams is not the government's job alone. The responsibility lies in all of us here today. Once again, thank you very much. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Vice President Robredo.
Thank you for that inspiring speech, VP Leni. I'm sure I could see the young leaders in the audience leaning forward to listen to your address today. I'm going to moderate some questions from the leaders to you, but I would like to exercise my prerogative as a moderator by asking the first question to you.
Sure.
I was very interested listening to your speech about the role that you played in enabling young leaders and NGOs to participate and embed their leadership in participation in making society a better place. I heard the call for service as well as a politician and entered into political service because I believe that the democratic process was the best way to affect change across society. But that is a strange perspective for a young person to have today. It seems across the world, young people, and particularly in our group as well, believe the best way to make changes through these NGOs, through single-issue campaign groups, rather than through the democratic process. So as someone who is on the front lines of fighting for democracy and standing up for the values that I hold dear in the democratic process, how can we engage young people across Asia and across the world to invest their time in service in the democratic process through our representative democracy?
You know, the problem with our political setup in the Philippines team is the president and the vice president are elected separately. So it often happens that the president and the vice president comes from different political parties. So when they ascend to office, there would always be political friction. And the difficulty is that our constitution does not give any real mandate to the vice president, in the sense that aside from being ready just in case something happens to the president, there's no real mandate to implement programs and the like. So when I assumed office, we had to innovate, in the sense that when we looked at our budget, there's really nothing there for programs. The budget was merely for operations, for salaries, and for ceremonial functions. But our term of office is 6 years. So I have a very young staff. I was telling them we can't do 6 years doing nothing, doing just ceremonial work. I came from the NGO sector. I was a human rights lawyer for the longest time when my husband was still alive. So I wanted to do something to that effect. So I knew that I wanted to do an anti-poverty program, but we didn't have funds for it. So what we did was conceptualize a program where we positioned ourselves as just a sort of a conduit. And that's where the participation of young people, very young people, came into play. We needed to to enter into partnerships with organizations, partnerships with companies, wanting to help but don't know how. We provided groundwork. We provided all the information on communities they can help, and we provided linkages. And youth organizations became a vital ingredient in the entire formula, in the sense that they really help us with the groundwork. When young people help us in the groundwork, they themselves think of their own projects to initiate. We did, and I was telling you a while ago about the Angat Buhay Youth Summit. It's actually a spin-off from the program, where we invite youth organizations to conceptualize anti-poverty programs. And they pitch projects. And we've had 3 runs already, and the projects were just amazing. You just provide for an environment, for an ecosystem where not only they are given a platform where they can plan, they can engage with partners, but also provide them with the opportunity to actually implement their programs. It is quite ironic that I am supposed to be the second highest official of the land, but I depend on the private sector to initiate my programs. But that's not a problem at all. I think it's a good way of being innovative and creative.
Well, I might paraphrase on Senator Bam Aquino spoke to us this morning, and he ended his address by telling us that the best thing about the Philippines was the people. But before I came over here, I was reading up and studying on the country, and I read that the median age in the Philippines is low 20s, 23. So I suppose that means that the best thing about the Philippines is the young people.
Tim, my chief of staff is just 34 years old. The median age in the office, during the last count was, I think, 26. So I'm working with very young people, and that was strategic. I really wanted to hire very young people because we needed to innovate. And there are just so many ideas that, young people can come up with.
Okay, I've had my turn. Now I'll throw it over to our Asia 21 young leaders. If you have a question, you know the drill. If you can move to the middle. Pradeep. And if you introduce yourself before your question. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pradeep. I'm from Nepal. Your Excellency, I have it's a very good lecture you just shared, that you are not enjoying power with only cutting the ceremony ribbon. Most of the time when politicians, they reach in the power, they don't know how to do things. So you are very innovative when you are as a vice president. But I'm asking few questions in terms of your presentation. Many young people we are seeing here from mostly Metro Manila, and there is some young people in 8 hours boat driving. So you went there. So how do you manage to bring these most marginalized people in the mainstream? So we are a lot of hearing Metro Manila people. So that's one of the things I want to ask with you.
What we really do is we bring Metro Manila people to them. It's, when you bring people to the communities, the response is really very automatic. Once they see poverty up front, they really think of projects to initiate, to be able to respond to the needs of the community. The first time we went to Agutaya, we were surprised on how far it was. We were just told that such a town exists and it's one of the poorest in the country. But when we went, we were not prepared for the, for the poverty that faced us. One of the things that really struck me was the stunting of the children there. Stunting is a condition which affects not only the height of the children, but also their mental faculties. And it's irreversible after the age of 5. But when we went to the only elementary school in Agutaya, we were faced with so many stunted children. And that was when it struck us that we needed to act immediately. When we presented the story of Agutaya to our partners, the response was really automatic. The response was automatic. Our partners who had solar energy as one of their advocacies immediately went to the area, assessed the communities. Now we have installed solar panels in more than 400 households. And I was telling you a while ago, that changed the livelihood landscape of the women in Agutaya. There is water supply already. There are boats for the fishermen. We're helping seaweed fishing, the seaweed fishing industry in the area. We have a feeding program already. We have installed libraries, not just library for books, but a toy library for the kids. And every time we speak of Agutaya, so many people respond to how can we be of help. So it's really a continuing thing. From the first time we went in, I think October or November of 2016, our team has gone there so many times to bring help. And we've been doing that not just in Agutaya, but in the 176 communities that we have. And these are very, very poor communities. And usually the poorest of communities are the farthest from the city. So it's really a pain to go. But we should. Because in training young people to be, to exercise empathy, they have to be there themselves. It's so difficult to just relate the story to them. It's different when they're there personally. So when we go to the communities, we invite as many partners, we invite as many people as possible to join us. Because that's when they start new movements. Young people would usually think of projects to respond to particular needs that they have come across with when we visit these communities.
Thank you, Pradeep. If we just move to the front to ask a question.
This question is for the Vice President and Tim, actually both of you. Across Asia, what are governments doing in terms of compensation, for elected officials and for people who want to join the government, for young people, to increase their compensation, link their compensation to some performance metrics, sort of like the private structure, so that it can actually encourage people to join and also reduce the chances of corruption, etc.
I think the best government that should serve as an example is Singapore. Singapore, I think, is paying its government officials really high salaries. And these are salaries that are even higher than private companies, what private companies offer. And I think it incentivizes good and smart people to join government. In the Philippines, that's not really the case. Government officials are paid way below the salaries that private companies offer. And that does not exactly attract the best and the brightest. We have been hoping that this system would actually change, but we've been hoping for this since decades ago. I think it was Malaysia who followed Singapore's model. I'm not very familiar with all the others, but the Singapore and the Malaysia model is something that we should look at.
Well, I can speak to the Australian model. I should preface this by saying that I did not go into politics for the money. But Australian politicians are very well paid, and our pay rate is set by an independent remuneration review tribunal that benchmarks politicians' pay against what are judged to be commensurate roles, so executive roles in the private sector, other senior public service roles. So they say what we're worth and what the roles that we perform are worth, and then that's how much we're paid. But yes, I'm not complaining about how I'm getting paid. I think I saw, yes.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Gao Shan from China. Normally we see the state leaders like you on TV, and taking advantage of that, this is really an honor for us to have a conversation with you. I want to, ask a personal level question. As basically probably, and now it's connected to the previous question. So on a daily basis, I just wondering what inspires you, what saddens you, what keeps you work so hard, and what makes you awake at night?
As a politician or as a private individual?
As a politician, as a mother, as a woman in general.
I'll answer your many questions. I lump my answer into just one to answer the many questions. I was a politician by accident. I was a human rights lawyer, as I was telling you, for a long time. I thought it was going to be my life's plan. But I lost my husband to a plane crash in 2012. My husband was the politician in the family. He was mayor of our city for 19 years. He was Secretary of the Interior for 2 years. He was Secretary of the Interior when the plane crash happened. And then all of a sudden, I was thrust into this world. It was not easy on my part. Because I did not have plans to enter politics, I was terribly ill-equipped. My husband died at the heels of a national elections. I suddenly became a candidate for the House of Representatives without any preparation. I did not have a political organization. I did not have resources. I was running against a well-entrenched political dynasty. It was a difficult fight, but I prevailed. I became a member of Congress for 3 years. When I did accept the nomination to run for Congress, I told members of our party that this is just for one term. This is just in the interim. Because when my husband died, he led our party. He was the one leading our party in the province where I come from. All the other candidates were sort of orphaned, and they were looking for a substitute who can more or less mimic the leadership of my husband. So I was a willing stand-in. But I had not finished my term yet. I was drafted to run for the vice presidency. When I ran for the vice presidency, there were 6 candidates. I was the only woman. I was running against 5 senators. I was running against seasoned, most of them. Most of them are already seasoned politicians. I was the one who was not so well known. I was when the campaign started, I was in the bottom of the surveys. I did my homework. I'm used to difficult circumstances. I worked hard during the campaign and I prevailed. But when I won, the president comes from a different political party, and it has been very difficult for me. There have been a lot, Filipinos know this, there have been a lot of upheavals. There have been attacks on my person. I have 3 daughters, by the way. There have been a lot of vilification, but I have been telling my staff that we need to focus on what we want to achieve. We cannot allow these upheavals to affect the work that we do. We have a limited mandate. We have a limited time. We want to do so much, and our focus should be on that. So, frustrations, there are a lot. But I also see this as an opportunity, as an opportunity to continue the work that I was doing before, perhaps in a bigger arena. It's not really true that I have more power because I almost have none, despite the fact that I'm the vice president, but that's okay. I hope to inspire others because I always think that this is borrowed time. I'm here just for a brief moment. And if I could inspire so many other young people to do the work that I do, then I would be making a difference. What keeps me awake at night is not really work, but worrying about my children. My youngest now is a freshman at the New York University, and it's her first time to be away from home. So it's evening here when it's day there. So I'm actually awake when she's awake. So that's what keeps me awake at night. I'm sorry, it should have been more profound than that. But when I'm home, I'm more a mother than a politician.
We have time for one more question. So, lots. But in Australia, we have a saying that politicians we are the volunteers because we chose the life to go into, but family are the conscripts. They were forced into the political life, so they deserve special treatment, special attention. Okay, one more question. Oh, someone has got the microphone, so go for it. Yes, a home question.
Hi, Bibi. I'm a Filipina, and you talk about your journey as a woman politician, and I want to ask if you plan on creating a program that will prepare more women in politics, or you plan to create more women leaders for the future. Thank you.
We're actually running several programs, but these are programs for young leaders. In Angat Buhay, inside the Angat Buhay program, there's a bridging leadership program for the local chief executives of the communities we're working with. But when my husband died, my children and I formed a foundation. It's called the Leni Robredo Foundation, and we're doing governance programs. Training very young local leaders. But just this morning, we launched our first program for women leaders. It's a program we're doing with the University of the Philippines. The program is called Angat Bayi. Bayi is the Bisaya term for women. It's an Angat Bayi program where we're training young women, local leaders. We have mayors, councilors, vice mayors, congressmen, congresswomen, I think provincial officials in the first batch. And the commencement of the program was this morning. Before I came over, I was in UP to start the program. What we want to impart is how to mainstream gender, the push for gender equality and women empowerment in the local level. We have had so many gender equality campaigns in the Philippines already. We've had so many of them. But I think the failure of the campaign is they're not really that felt in the grassroots. When you speak about women empowerment, gender equality in the grassroots, it's not a sexy topic for them. They're more interested in what they will eat during the day. So we're training. The Angat Bayi program is really an attempt to popularize the push for gender equality in the local arena. We've had this is gathered from our experience in Naga when my husband was mayor, and I was very active in the campaign for women empowerment. I was telling you a while ago that I was a human rights lawyer in my other life, and when I was a human rights lawyer, I did a lot of cases for battered women, and one of the things that was really one of the most important ingredients to really empower women is economic empowerment. So we've been pushing for economic empowerment of women. It's very difficult to talk about women empowerment if women are not economically independent. So that's basically how the campaign will go. The first batch will have a 3-day program from now till Saturday. So but after the 3-day course, it's an immersion program. It's policy centered. It's program centered. So we're very hopeful about the program.
Well, we got one extra question in, so I'm sure everyone's very thankful. But we'll call the session to an end now. I can say from my own personal perspective, this has been the most inspiring session of our Asia 21 program to date. So I want to thank you for your generosity with your time and for your leadership in the Philippines and throughout Asia. So Asia 21, Class of 18, would you join with me in thanking VP Leni?
Thank you.